For us, really, our history is something that we should value but not exploit, and also being able to maintain it maybe for another thousand of years.
Welcome to Ciao Bella, hosted by me, Erica Firpo, a travel journalist based in Rome. Each episode of Ciao Bella, I sit down with Italy's creators, contemporary artists and artisans, designers, culinary experts, heritage brands, and innovative aesthetes, and more who are defining and redefining 21st century Italy. Pull up a chair and join in. Welcome back. Today I am in Tuscany, in a beautiful hamlet called Nipozzano, and I'm here with Matteo Frescobaldi. Ciao, Matteo.
Ciao, buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Thank you so much for having me at your family's estate. And your family has so many great estates because you're from the Frescobaldi family. You know, I was thinking when I was coming here, it must be pretty amazing to have 30 generations of Frescobaldi. Can you tell a little bit about your family's history?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for visiting us and for being here together to talk about our family. Yes, I must say it is pretty unique. Also, I feel the responsibility. Our family has a long history in Florence, in Tuscany, since the year 1000.
It's crazy.
It is pretty unique. We still live in the same building where our family history started about 1,000 years ago, as well as we work in our lands, in our estates, where we have been making agriculture since the year 1300. So we have over 700 years and 30 generations of experience and the responsibility for our work.
Well, it is truly amazing to just even quantify that 1,000 years and 1,000, and 700 of one of the most important wine families in Italy and one of the oldest wine families in the world, from what I know. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing, and it's great talking with you because you're the 30th generation, the young generation, right? And it's fun because we're here in Nipozzano not to talk about wine, which we could talk because you stand at the top of the castle and it's just beautiful rolling hills, beautiful vineyards. We're looking, you said the Val d'Arno. We're just, I guess, east of Florence.
Exactly.
About a 30-minute drive, and it is I keep saying to you, this looks like a painting. It doesn't seem real. It's so beautiful. But we're not here to talk about wine. We're here to talk about Laudemio.
Yes, Laudemio is our olive oil. And I started to work in the family business 4 years ago to manage our olive oil Laudemio, which we have been making since the year 1986. And in reality, olive oil has always been made during the history of our family, but in 1986 we decided to launch a high quality and high value brand, a luxury brand of olive oil.
Well, you were telling me that something happened that kind of set the ball rolling in 1985.
Yes, here in this part of Tuscany, we had a very cold winter where temperatures went down to minus 25 degrees Celsius. So we lost...
That's so cold.
Yes. We lost all the olive trees froze, and we lost the crop for the next 3 years. So our idea was to relaunch our olive oil production by making a high-quality brand of olive oil that would guarantee consumers with origin, high-quality standards, and authentic Tuscan aromas and taste.
So kind of like establishing a terroir for the olive oil that really hadn't been done before, correct?
Yes, it was the first time in the history of the extra virgin olive oil world that a brand like the DOC or the OCGs of wines implicitly guaranteed high quality standards, origins and taste. For example, we launched Laudemio in 1986 and the first DOP of extra virgin olive oil of Europe and of Italy was born in 1995. So almost 10 years
Wow.
after we
Pioneers.
definitely, yes. I must say my parents and my uncles were very visionary for the olive oil sector.
It sounds like it. I think it's pretty interesting. When we were walking around, you were telling me that the olive oil, that what is really important with Laudemio is that it's about identifying, creating an olive oil that's identified by its taste that really brings you back to where you are. Tell me a little bit about Laudemio, what it means, why it's called Laudemio.
Laudemio is a word that was used in the medieval ages by the farmers to indicate the best selection of the crop. And the origin of the word is from the Latin word laude, which means with praise, with honors. So Laudemio meant the finest part of the production of the farm for the medieval ages here in Tuscany. And we decided to call the olive oil Laudemio because we didn't want it to be a commodity like it was the world of extra virgin olive oil. We wanted it to be something special, something unique.
Wow. Now tell me, I know a little bit about olive oil. I know that I like it a lot. I noticed yours, the packaging is like a perfume bottle. It's like, but a luxury perfume bottle. It's beautiful. And you definitely get the idea that this is more than just something I'm going to use to toss on a salad. I know that there have been a lot of different ways of thinking about olive oil, like monocultivars and blends. What does Laudemio Frescobaldi do?
So our concept, which is also thanks of our heritage in terms of winemaking, is giving value to the territory and being convinced that the quality and the taste and the character of a product comes from the land and the terroir where it's made. By terroir, I mean the original meaning, which is a combination of altitude, soil, wind, weather, so all of the components that influence the life of the plants and of the fruits. So what really gives the character to our products and our Laudemio is the territory where it's made. Then all of the things that we do, all of the best production techniques are made to convert that particular fruit in that terroir to a finished product.
Tell me a little bit about, so it's not just Nipozzano. I know Nipozzano is you have about 100 hectares here of olives, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, and I want to talk about this a little bit later, you have a very special grove of olives too. But overall, Frescobaldi has 300 hectares of olive groves?
Yes, all around Florence, in our estates that are surrounding Florence in a way from west to east. In Nipozzano we have 100, we have another 200 in other 2 estates, and they are all harvested to produce Laudemio, meaning harvesting the olives when they are not ripe yet. Usually we begin in the beginning of October and we finish by the end of November. So the olives are still very green and not ripe. And they're all pressed within a few hours. By definition, olive oil must be pressed on the same day that the olives are harvested. So all of the olive oil is produced to potentially do Laudemio, but then there is a rigid selection, and only the finest is selected to become Laudemio Frescobaldi.
Can you describe the color and taste of Laudemio to our listeners? Because you are definitely the expert. As director of Laudemio Frescobaldi, you are the man to talk to about this. So I would love to have your personal take on the color and the taste.
Both the color and taste, as I said before, come from our territory. Here in central Tuscany And in this part, for example, of Nipozzano, we are very close to a mountain chain, and it is pretty cold for the normal life of olive trees, which used to originate from the Middle East and from warmer weathers. So this cold weather and the exchanges in temperatures from day to night in September and October make the olives develop very, very green colors. So the olive oil is emerald green, so it's very, very green because we harvest the olives when they're still very green. And also the tasting profile is green. So what you see in the color, you will also find it in the taste, because the tasting profile is of green grass, very fresh aromas of like wild arugula or artichoke.
Do you have a favorite way? I think I love olive oil. I'll even just drink a teaspoon of it, probably because my nonna used to make me do that. I think some people just use it for salads. Some people use it for cooking. How about you? Do you have a favorite way that you like to enjoy Laudemio?
It really changes based on the season. So in November, October, when the olive oil is new, it's very pungent, it's very strong, it tends to be very spicy and bitter. So it works very well with vegetables soup or beans soup, like the Tuscan ribollita, for example. Then as we go towards the summer, the olive oil becomes a bit more gentle, a bit more balanced, and it's perfect for like fish tartars or how do you say, salads with tomato and rucola.
And I'm going to guess it must be delicious with a nice like bistecca alla fiorentina. I mean,
that's really the best with the tagliata.
Oh God, yeah, you can't really go wrong. Which actually brings me back to Nipozzano, because this is not simply a farm. This, as we said, this is a castle. This is Castello Nipozzano, which has been in your family for how long?
It has been, the castle has over 1,000 years of age. It used to be a military fortress. It was not always a Frescobaldi property. It used to belong to another noble family of Tuscany called degli Albizzi. And in the 1800s, the last member of the degli Albizzi family was Leonia degli Albizzi, who married my great-great-grandfather, Angelo Frescobaldi, and so Nipozzano in 1855, if I remember correctly, became part of the Frescobaldi lands. So
you were telling me this castle, when prior to being Frescobaldi, but in its medieval heyday, this was, it was a fortress that guarded one of the main roads going into Florence, correct?
Yes, here we are at the corner between two valleys, Val di Sieve and Valdarno, and it used to be one of the entrances to Florence, and for a certain time it was a border. So here there was the border going in and out of the city of Florence, and in fact there was also a dogana, how do you say dogana?
Customs house.
Custom house,
yeah.
Of 1,000 years ago. So it's not like the one of today, but you had to pay to enter the city, and there was here the commissioner who made you pay to go into Florence.
And it's amazing because you don't see the commissioner, but you still see the traces of its, the crenellations, the traces of its medieval heritage. That little church that's there, the courtyard, it's so beautiful. And then eventually it becomes Frescobaldi and it becomes a family estate. And now you were saying since the 60s, it's more like a meeting place, correct? And a tasting center, which why we find ourselves right in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I must say my father and my uncles have been very intelligent in the 60s to decide not to use for their own use, for the private use, all our estates and villas, but to use it for the company. So most of the rooms and the cellars of the Nipozzano villa are used to make hospitality for our guests and promoting our products.
So pian piano, this is Hamlet. So for everyone to understand, it's got a little a little stone road that comes through, and you have this beautiful castle. And then on one side, you have this beautiful castle with the crenellations, and on the other side, you have a church, which is still an active church. And then a bunch of buildings. Some of them, they're already here for hospitality. So I have been a guest here, which has been a lot of fun because it was great to wake up and just hear birds and see this countryside. I'm so used to Rome, and I wake up and I hear the ambulances, or I hear the people shouting. And so this is not simply this is a place where you can come and just take some time out, relax, enjoy the Tuscan air as a guest, correct?
Well, definitely. Here
And drink great wine.
here I must say it's really relaxing. When I bring my friends here or my colleagues, they're always impressed. And the day after, they say, "I have never slept so well."
That's what I was thinking that today too. I really slept well. You were telling me that when you were a kid, you used to come here and play in the forest.
Yes, all the time.
It must have been great. I would love to. I think that next time I come back, I think I'm just gonna have to walk through your forest because those trees are gorgeous. Again, we see the olive trees and we see the vines, but there's also forest areas. So these really rich green areas that I miss a lot living in a city. 21st century Italian identity doesn't necessarily mean, I'm walking around with a bandiera, but I'm wondering how you feel about it, especially with your 1,000 years of of Frescobaldi history.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Well, for me, I think it's very connected to how my parents and my uncles brought me up, but also I can see it with my cousins. We have always been taught that we are not owners of what we have, but we have to manage it for the generations to come. So for us, really, our history is something that we should value, but not exploit, and also being able to maintain it maybe for another 1,000 of years.
Caretakers for the future.
Yeah.
Last question I wanted to ask you: as we were walking through the vineyards and the estate, you showed me a vine, and you showed me a tree, and you said, "This in 1986."
Exactly.
Somebody special came here.
Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, he became friends of my uncles Vittorio and Bona, and he visited us in 1986, which is in the same year that we decided to launch Laudemio. And there is an old tradition that when a king visits you, as a memory, you plant a tree. So we decided to plant an olive tree and a vine. And since then, he became a very good, passionate consumer with Laudemio Frescobaldi. And every year we send him the first 12 bottles that we produce of every new vintage, of every new harvest for his birthday.
Oh, that's such a great tradition. And then he'll be king. That'll be interesting.
Maybe. Who knows?
Exactly. It's who knows what the future brings, right? So do you call that grove the Prince's Field?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we call them the olive grove of the prince.
Oh, that's so cool. That's really charming. Well, I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to come here, and I mean, it's we as Darius and I were saying earlier when we walked in, it is really mind-blowing. I mean, we're sitting in this old kitchen, beautiful kitchen, a wooden table, and an old fireplace, how things used to be made, and we're walking around and we see the traces every kind of phase of the history because we've seen the medieval castle. We've you're sharing us the Renaissance and the Baroque history and the 18th and 19th century history, and it is a lot to it's almost mind-boggling when you see it. You read it in history books, but when you live it, it's amazing. It must be. What's it like being a Frescobaldi? I mean, when somebody hears your last name, they must be like, wow, 1,000 years, 30 generations. Do people often say that to you?
Yes, for us it's normal.
Uh-huh.
As I said before, it's also a responsibility, but it's also normal at the same time. So, but I understand when we tell our story and people ask questions. You can tell that whether it is somebody from Florence or somebody from San Francisco, they're all amazed in the same way.
I would think so. Now, one of the things I really enjoyed when I was talking to you, aside from how charming and sweet you are, is I asked you, because I'm always curious about what happened with people during lockdown. And I know, you are lucky because you have a job that during lockdown in Italy, everybody was shut down and everybody had to stay in their houses. But if you worked in agriculture, you were allowed to go to your estates. And I know you came out here and you said it was great. But what I found even more charming was when you told me that you got really bored in Florence. And so what did you do?
Well, in terms of work, we also planted new olive groves during lockdown, which was very nice, to think of a rebirth potentially, and now they're growing, and maybe this year they will produce. But then when I was not in the estates working in agriculture, since I really do get bored at home, I decided to start being a volunteer with the local ambulance associations. So I started to drive ambulance and be a rescuer, and I still do it once a week.
Well, that's great. So when you're in Florence, stay well, but if you don't stay well, if something happens, we know that we have Matteo. That might save
I don't cover everywhere.
I hope not. That'd be a lot of work. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for sharing the history of Laudemio. I mean, it's actually though we have to say one thing, because one of the things is it's not simply Laudemio Frescobaldi, because you guys created Frescobaldi was a part of creating a consortium.
Yes, we founded the Laudemio brand as a consortium, and we decided to ask the other local producers who are of the same territory, of the same terroir, to join us in this project, which for us, it was a way to relaunch the Tuscan olive oil industry.
Was it easy to get them to join up?
You would have to ask my father, because he was the one that had to convince everyone. He was successful, but he didn't convince as many as he wanted to.
But now there are 21, is that?
Yes, 21.
So the key is looking at the name, Laudemio. Laudemio Frescobaldi means this is a very special olive oil. It's been, how would you call, can we say it's an IGP? Is it?
No, it's not an IGP because it's a privately owned brand. So we manage it as if it was a DOC, but
DOC, right.
Or IGP DOC, but it's not officially because it's privately owned.
Because it's privately owned. So that's what you're looking. That's what, when you see this word Laudemio with Frescobaldi, that you are drinking terroir, and
yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon. We're going to run around your backyard.
Thank you so much.
Wait a second. This is a little postscript. So the ambulance where you work is?
Yes, it's called Misericordia di Firenze, which was established in the year 1244, and it is still today the first social assistance organization ever established in the world.
Wow. So not only do you have storia,
no, but the
what
rest
you
of
do
Florence,
exactly. But maybe there was a Frescobaldi.
For sure, yes. Well, my father used to do it. It's a tradition for people in Florence to do.
I love hearing this. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ciao Bella. If you'd like to know more about today's guest, please visit ciaobella.co and click on the podcast link, or go directly to ciaobella.co/podcast. Want more Italy? You can find all my episodes on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher. When you have time, subscribe to iTunes and rate the podcast. What are you waiting for? And if you want to be part of the podcast, email me or DM me your Italy questions. To learn more about me and my work, go to my website, ericafirpo.com, and follow my Italy adventures on Instagram at ericafirpo. Ciao, Bella! And a very big thank you and hug to Massimiliano Yonta, the producers of Ciao Bella, who continue to make me sound and feel great.